want me to? Oh.
Now it's movie time.
Okay. It's Movie Time is produced by John DeSando. Listen to shows and read reviews online at WCBE.org.
I'm John DeSando.
And I'm Kevin Carr.
And this is It's Movie Time.
Is it?
and I picked kind of an offbeat movie today,
You
Kevin.
did. I was surprised.
I know.
It was not what I expected. Because you said, hey, let's do this. I'm like, what's that then?
I know. It forced you, of course, to see a movie when you see every movie that comes out except these little. Anyway, I read a bit about it and I thought, all right, Catherine called Birdy.
Yes.
Now that title alone gets me.
Yeah, it's a confusing title. I mean, it makes sense when you see the movie.
Right, it does. So I thought, well, who best to pick something eccentric? Kevin. So here we are, Catherine Called Birdy.
Yeah.
It's on Prime Video.
Yeah, and it's been there since the end of September, I think is when it was released.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's still relatively new.
Yeah. Now, would you call this a young adult?
I guess. I mean, it's a coming-of-age story, really, at the heart of it. And I've not read the book. I'm not familiar with the book. So I imagine it's something that would appeal to teenage girls.
Right.
It's what it's aimed for.
And the last one I saw, well, I probably saw more, but the last one I think was Hunger Games, maybe. And looking at YA.
Oh, young adult, yeah. Very different book.
Yes. And so we have a young girl played by Bella Ramsey.
Yes.
Who people on TV will know her, I think, from something.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm unfamiliar with her.
Right. Anyway, she is just a delight as Birdy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's because she keeps birds.
Yeah, well, that's her nickname.
Yeah. And let's also clarify here. We're talking 1290.
Yeah, late 13th century, or something like that.
So we're definitely Middle Ages.
Yeah.
So am I sticking people with stilted dialogue and outmoded thoughts?
Yeah, no, not really, because it's very progressive as a movie, and it's directed by Lena Dunham.
Oh gosh.
Which that tracks. I mean, for the content that she definitely does. She tends to lean a little more adult with her stuff you're used to seeing, but this is aimed at coming of age type. I'm assuming that the book is something that like teenage and preteen girls have gravitated towards.
Yeah.
It's basically the story of this. She's 14 or something like that. She's about 14-year-old girl who's the daughter of a lord who doesn't know how to keep his finances in order. Right. So she's privileged but not too privileged, and dealing with all the problems of growing up in the medieval times, the Middle Ages, as a girl.
Yeah. And shockingly, but maybe not for anybody who's read or been familiar with the Middle Ages, shockingly at 14 she's ripe for marriage.
Yeah, actually, like, surprisingly slow in development, we'll say. I'm not going to go into the gory details, but...
She's just gotten her period.
Yes. That usually happens a little earlier.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But I mean, that's the whole point, is if you understand the economy of the days, women were a commodity at that time.
Yeah.
I mean, that's unfortunately how it was looked at, and the only way that they could profit from them is with dowries and marrying them off, and merging families and that sort of thing. That was really sort of the equity of a daughter, and whereas the son could do other things. And it's not that it was a pleasant time for a son, because you were either being a monk or a soldier. So there's your choices.
That's right. Yeah, and of course resonates even today.
Yeah.
Where women, there's equality all over the place. Lena Dunham is doing this movie. Mm-hmm. She's a woman,
yeah.
And so there are women are taking their place nose to nose with men, but not as much as it could be.
Yeah, and then you have two guys picking it apart here for you.
That's exactly right.
Just to let you know how equal we are.
But that's how cool I am, is that I didn't even think that way. I think, I have to have a woman for this.
There you go.
I had to have a brain for this. Somebody, and that was it. But you are quite right.
Yeah.
Like if I have some black films coming up, I'm going to try to recruit some black friends.
Sure.
To do that, so I'm in that mindset.
Yeah.
But on this one, I just knew it was such a quirky movie that I had to have you sitting there, and you are exposing my weakness, of course, by having two guys.
I think it's supposed to be my weakness. You're always the host. You're here all the time.
I know, but that is true. Two guys on a clearly a feminist movie in a most benign way, I thought.
It's not aggressively feminist.
No,
It's not like it's not a Catherine the Great movie. It's the coming of age story. I appreciated the fact that even with all the oppression that exists historically in this movie, it wasn't this bleak, horrid life of a woman. Like, even if you look at a movie like The Last Duel, which came out last year.
Oh, right.
Which was about, and obviously the whole crux of that is centered on a sexual assault thing, so it's very different.
Right.
But that entire movie was just nothing but just berating you about how awful it was to be a woman in the Middle Ages. And this one, it's just, this is just life, and the character of Birdy, she's just reacting as a teenage girl would, regardless of what century you're in.
Yes. And being told what to do, that is, Dad, played by Andrew Scott, Lord Rollo,
Yeah.
actually a kind of interesting role. I liked him.
He's really good. He's weirdly he's a diverse actor because he played Moriarty in the Sherlock series.
Yes.
And he's in Fleabag.
Okay.
As let's just say a troubled priest, troubled vicar.
Yeah. So Lord Rollo has decided that because he has squandered their money, that he has an item here, chattel, that he can use, and that's his daughter, to becoming married. And so the intriguing thing about this is that she's a feisty little lady.
Yeah.
And she's witty. And
yeah, it's told from her point of view. It's obviously the book has to have been written from her point of view.
Yeah, right.
In her voice. And yeah, so she is smart and sassy and does not like the way things are. But there's no awareness of, the character has no awareness of modern feminism, which I appreciated, because she's not looking at this as a character from the 21st century thrust into a 13th century movie. She's exists at the time and is questioning the oppression of the day.
Yeah. Being told what to do.
Yeah.
Being unable to develop her own person.
Can't be herself.
Right, can't be herself.
Has to be a lady, and it's awful.
Right, yeah, and finding yourself, which is very 21st century stuff, finding yourself. In all of our movies, there's so much of this. I'm not sure back in 1290 they would have used that phrase.
There's several anachronisms, terms of phrase. There was one in particular, I can't remember what it was, but I'm like, okay, that's pushing the limits on. We don't have to speak Old English or anything like that. But
and Kevin, I thought that the relationship between her and her father was fairly modern. Did that strike you at all?
I don't know if I'd say it's modern. I think it's realistic. This is where I would say it'd be realistic, because growing up in it, as a baby, she was probably the apple of everybody's eye. She was the cutest thing in the world, and she was a little girl. Isn't that sweet? But once she starts maturing, he doesn't know how to deal with her. And the mother, played by Billie Piper, she also really doesn't know how to deal with her, because by that point it was clear that the mother's character had resigned herself to say, this is my station in life, and I am going to be a breeder for my husband. And by the way, in the backstory is she has a lot of problems delivering birth.
Man, she's had several, maybe half dozen.
Yeah, but again, you're talking about of the day, the commodity of a wife was to produce heirs.
Yeah.
And to produce, the way things worked back then, I'm not saying that's the way it is now, but back then, if you were poor, you produced a lot of children to help you work and survive as a family. If you were wealthy or had station in life, you provided heirs, and you provided ways to entangle families and merge assets, so to speak. And so the parents are kind of, and I use this term not in a pejorative sense, but they're failures of the day at what they're doing. And he just doesn't know how to deal with her.
Yeah.
Because she's turned into an adolescent, and he has no interest in an adolescent.
But they do have some nose-to-nose talks,
Mhm.
and I like them. She's just an unusual little girl, and in fact, Kev, I would say that she's not necessarily pretty.
No, she's not.
I mean, she's
not an-
borders on homely.
She is not a strikingly attractive girl.
Right.
But what's interesting is when they do bring in girls that she's like, this is the prettiest girl in the land. The girl's not unattractive, but she's not
right.
she's not drop dead gorgeous. I would say, and again, I don't want to sound insulting with this, but it's probably going to come across because I'm a dude, I guess. I thought she resembled a more softer edged version of Lena Dunham herself.
Exactly. And I when I first came to it, I thought maybe Dunham was, but of course she's too old.
Oh, that's the thing. I think she wanted to play it.
Yeah.
But
All
there's
right,
no
Kevin
way.
Carr. We can advise our audience to go to the podcast experience on WCBE to listen to Back Talk and what we are going to be talking about
Yes.
now. Right now, what do you advise our audience?
Okay, well, I will advise you to see the movie, but see it with a critical eye, and it wasn't perfect, and if you want to know why, you can listen to Back Talk.